You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Hand-picked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Coors Light. These days, everything is go, go, go. It's nonstop hustle all the time. Work, friends, family, expect you to be on 24/7. Well, sometimes you just need to reach for a Coors Light because it's made to chill. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. It's as crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. It is literally made to chill. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind. So when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Today on the timeline, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, RIP the Miami pick, and time to rise? Let's go.
With the first pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select DeAndre Ayton from Nassau, Bahamas, and the University of Arizona.
You came to the States and you said you wanted to find a job to help your family in the Bahamas, and you've accomplished that goal. What does it mean in this moment?
I mean, it means the world to me. My family and coaches know the hard work I put in this game to really try and be successful and achieve all my goals. And, we put God first in everything we do. No matter what type of trials and tribulations we went through, we always had faith in everything we do to be successful.
When you first showed up, you were called Tall for Nothing, TFN. That's what coaches, that's what players called you, and now it's come full circle. What did you have to do to make it into this moment?
I mean, really to try to prove people wrong and, just stick to what I do. Work on my craft every day, take pride in it, and, represent my country the best way I can.
All right, you played high school in Arizona, you played college at Arizona, now you get to start your professional career with Phoenix. What does it mean to start it out there?
It means a lot to me because, the fans out there are amazing. They're the best fans in the world. And, I really want to go to Phoenix. I'm really happy to be a part of the Phoenix Suns now to really start a winning legacy with Devin Booker and Josh Jackson and all those other guys. And they're great. We're a young team and we're ready. I'm just happy to be a Phoenix Sun.
All right, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Shaq and Kobe 2.0.
Shaq and Kobe, Josh Jackson, and all those other guys. The Suns finally had the most hyped draft in franchise history. My name is Mike. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Sam, the draft.
The draft, Mike.
It finally happened.
It finally happened. And Mike, I'm feeling really good right now. We talked about what would make for a successful draft on our episode last week. And frankly, I think Ryan McDonough hit a home run here and easily exceeded all expectations that we even had for him. I mean, we were thinking maybe there would be some sort of a other trade, like trading for a veteran or something. At one point, we were questioning whether we were actually going to walk away with, 3 rookies who could get substantial playing time next year. But, the 3 guys we got are 3 really good prospects, and I'm excited to detail all of them with you tonight.
Yeah, this is our playoffs. I feel like I've been thinking about...
This is our playoffs, unfortunately. This is my playoffs. Yeah. I waited all year for this, and now we're going to validate ourselves by talking about it.
We have literally been talking about this since probably late October of 2017. It's nice that we actually finally get to try to win from now on. Now, of course, the Suns selected University of Arizona center or power forward center in the NBA, DeAndre Ayton with the number 1 pick. Now, that seems to be the popular pick. I was actually at the arena today for the draft party, Talking Stick Resort Arena, the worst name in all of sports. And the crowd is very, very happy with DeAndre Ayton. In fact, at the mere mention of Luka Doncic, there was boos and groans. Even when they showed his face, there were a few groans, which is hard to believe. He just looks like such a nice boy. I don't know. He looks friendly, but people did not like him in that arena. So DeAndre Ayton going first, which apparently has been in the works for a long time, according to Twitter. That made everybody very, very, very happy, and it made me happy too. I know we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but let's talk a little bit about DeAndre Ayton's fit on the team now that we know for sure that he is the number 1 pick. Now, we need a center, obviously. No offense to Alex Len, but I don't think he's lived up to the top 10 pick that it took to get him. And now we have someone that could potentially live up to that. What do you think about his fit?
Yeah, I mean, at the first overall pick, you don't even draft for fit. You draft for the best available player. The Suns need as much top talent as they can get, and it was undeniable to me that DeAndre Ayton is that guy. With all due respect to Luka Doncic, who I do think is going to be a high-level player in the NBA for a long time, Ayton, we've talked about it in the past. Again, last week, he's 7'1" with a 7'5" wingspan. Demonstrated great polished offensive ability in the post, as well as with a mid-range jump shot. The three-point shot is still a work in progress, but his freshman year at Arizona, averaging 20 and 10. Of course, we know that there are some concerns about his defense, and that is going to be something that he will have to continue to work on over the next several years as he transitions to the NBA. But there is no doubt in my mind that DeAndre Ayton, if he achieves his potential, him and Booker could be a hell of a 1-2 scoring punch that you can really build a foundation on for this franchise going forward, and then surround those two with the right players, the right role players who just, do simple things. Let
all those other guys.
Yeah, all those other guys, as the ESPN, as Ayton said in the ESPN interview. But those two could really carry the scoring load for us for a long time.
As a Suns fan, it actually made me kind of uncomfortable to see national media talking so much about the Suns.
Yeah, it's probably the first time since 2010. It was a bit of a shock. I mean, at the beginning of the second round, when the Suns took Elie Okobo, and so since we haven't said it yet, the Suns ended up taking Zaire Smith, the 16th pick, but then traded him to Philadelphia along with a future first-round pick in 2021 that belongs to the Heat for Mikal Bridges, and who was selected 10th by Philadelphia, and then took Elie Okobo 31st. We are currently recording this before the official end of the draft, so we do not know who the Suns have taken with the 59th pick yet. But just to continue from where I was, when the Suns took Okobo 31st, Chauncey Billups was sitting there for ESPN talking about how the Suns have done a fantastic job stocking up on talent in this draft. And I was like, where is all this praise coming from? Because it's just like the national media has not been kind to Phoenix fans for the past few years.
It's kind of undeniable at this point. We have, of course, Devin Booker. That's our franchise cornerstone currently. And then potentially DeAndre Ayton being the other cornerstone. Of course, we have Josh Jackson, but there's Josh Jackson. Well, he's shown flashes and obviously was drafted because of his potential, has not necessarily shown he can be that cornerstone. So building around a shooting guard and a center, that's a formula for success that we've seen in the NBA over and over and over again. And well, we obviously have Marquise Chris, Dragan Bender. Maybe they haven't lived up to where they were selected in the draft. They were also selected as some of the youngest players in the draft, both of them at the time. So it's not really something that we can say they are busts yet. I think they've been kind of productive so far. They definitely have shown flashes and an ability to be productive. So if you look at the team as a whole, from the national media standpoint, you have to acknowledge that we have two potential cornerstones, a really high potential player in Josh Jackson, and then two players that could potentially be maybe not all-stars, but contributors on good teams in the future. And it's difficult to say that McDonough has done a bad job at all. In fact, I actually had it later on our outline, but let's talk a little bit about McDonough so far. The entire time that he's been with the Suns has led to this moment, I believe, drafting DeAndre Ayton with the number 1 pick. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
It's difficult to judge him as a GM until right now, or at least after we see DeAndre Ayton play in the NBA, because he's traded a lot of players to try and lose. He's even asked players to sit out at the end of the season to try and lose games. And the whole goal of all of those moves was eventually to get a high enough pick to draft a superstar player. So there's a lot riding on this draft for McDonough, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, the funny thing about Ryan McDonough's tenure so far with the Suns is arguably we have yet to see exactly what Josh Jackson will become, and I suspect that he will turn into a very good player. But arguably the best players that McDonough has picked so far came at the 13 and 14 spots, respectively, with Devin Booker and TJ Warren during those seasons where I really think Ryan McDonough came in to the organization in 2013 and just wanted to tank. You could tell by the way that roster was constructed for the 2013-14 season. But then Goran Dragic ended up being good. Miles Plumlee ended up being okay. Gerald Green ended up being okay. And all of a sudden, we sort of were held back for a couple of seasons chasing the 8th seed, which we never got, when really I think McDonough has been trying to get this number 1 pick for years, and now he's finally achieved it. So like you said, Mike, this, with only 2 years left on his contract, is an absolutely huge make or break off season for Ryan McDonough as he tries to set this team up for the long term.
Yeah, never forget that one of his first moves was trading Gortat for nothing, essentially.
Yeah, trading Gortat for the corpse of Emeka Okafor, who never played for us, and a first-round pick that was used on Tyler Ennis. And think about it. That was the season where the Suns they went 48-34, and they missed the 8th seed by 1 game due to Dallas and Memphis, I believe, made it before us. With Gortat, that team easily wins 2 or 3 extra games, makes the playoffs. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to tank, and we just failed at it.
Right, winning by accident. That was his legacy for the early stages of his career. Now we'll see if it's possible for him to win on purpose. This next season will show us. So now we have DeAndre Ayton, number 1. And obviously McDonough has done some interesting things to try and build a team around that already. In this draft, the biggest thing that happened, maybe the biggest trade in the whole draft, except for maybe the Luka Doncic trade, which we'll talk about at some point here. But the biggest trade, as far as Suns fans are concerned, was for Mikal Bridges. And that trade was the 16th pick, Zaire Smith, who ended up being the 16th pick, and the Miami 2021 unprotected pick. Now, people tend to feel a lot of different ways about that pick, but most Suns fans were pretty excited about using that pick. How do you feel about this trade?
I feel great about it. And I think it's a fair trade. I can see why the Sixers did it too. So I understand why Suns fans are a little bit apprehensive about giving up that 2021 Miami pick when in our little bag of treats that McDonough has assembled, it's one of the most appealing assets we have, especially with a report coming out a few days ago that 2021 draft class might be stacked because that might be the year that the NBA does away with the one and done rule. So you have like sort of a double size freshman class because you'll have prospects entering from high school as well. In which case, that's a great asset for Philly to have. Additionally, I was really big on Zaire Smith. So when we first picked him up, because I wasn't tuning into Twitter all night, I wanted to get natural reactions from the broadcast. I just wanted to watch the broadcast and see what was happening. When I heard that we got Zaire Smith instead of Dante DiVincenzo, I was psyched because we talked about Zaire Smith and his potential as a great 3-and-D player going forward on the podcast last week. And then I was like, oh, wait, he's being traded. Who are we getting for it? We're getting Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is an advanced version of Zaire Smith. We're talking about a 6'7" guy with a 7'2" wingspan, incredibly athletic. He's older, admittedly, and he's going to be 22 years old when he starts as a rookie on the Suns. But he's a guy who worked his absolute butt off to develop a three-point shot, become a much more polished defensive player over the past few years, which makes me think that maybe he's not done growing yet and that he's just a late bloomer who still has more development in him. Bottom line is Mikal Bridges might not be exactly the star complement to Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton in terms of like creating for himself offensively, but he's a guy who's going to make a two-way impact immediately and who immediately addresses our needs of defense and three-point shooting. So, given that, I think
absolutely
the Miami pick was, a fine price to pay.
Almost never can you say the best perimeter defender in the draft, potentially the best perimeter defender in the draft, is also one of the best shooters in the draft. I absolutely love this trade. It's amazing. It's more than I could have asked for from this 16th pick. Now, on the last podcast, you will remember that I did predict that we would trade this pick. I just didn't expect McDonough to select a player at 16. The players 1 through 10 just had more value in my mind, and he's on a short contract. I mean, we'll be honest. He traded the 2021 pick, and his contract is only through 2020. He might not be here on the Suns to see that pick through without this Mikal Bridges trade, because this is the type of trade that could take your team to the next level. It's a really, really great pick, and I think Mikal Bridges he has star potential. That's the other thing that we should say. He's not just a great player currently, someone who could contribute immediately due to his age. He spent some time in college. He's also won at the highest level in college and proven that he can be very effective at the college level. He's a great defender. He's a great shooter, and he's an advanced stats king. The advanced stats show he's one of the best players. If you look at, there's a stat called box plus minus, and the idea of box plus minus is that it fully rates players based on all aspects. So similar to PER, but it also factors in your effect on defense, offense, everything is sort of factored in. And if you look at Mikal Bridges' box plus minus, he's higher than Anthony Davis, than Karl Anthony Towns, Victor Oladipo, players that you would not expect him to be better than. Of course, this is an advanced stat. He's not going to be better than Anthony Davis or Karl Anthony Towns right off the bat, but his contribution to winning is there. We can see it in the stats, we could see it in his game, and he's big. But we should talk a little bit about this because he is a small forward, maybe potential to play power forward down the line, but that means that we have a bit of a logjam at small forward. We have Josh Jackson, we have Mikal Bridges, and we have TJ Warren. All three guys have starting small forward potential. I think that it's clear that Josh Jackson is part of the future, part of the timeline, if you will. But what about TJ Warren? What do you think this means for TJ Warren?
Well, I don't want to definitively say that this means it's the end for TJ Warren, but it definitely means, I think, that the front office is considering it. You look at a player like Mikal Bridges, he's a he shot 44% from deep this past season, and he's one of the most switchable defenders that there was in college basketball. So he's going to come in and make an impact on that end. Those are the two areas of weakness that we've been talking about with TJ Warren for a very long time in terms of, he's not a great defensive player and he still can't shoot. So we've been talking about TJ Warren before, like maybe fitting in as a sixth man while Josh Jackson gets the starting role. But now you add Bridges to the mix, and I could definitely see the Suns trying to shop him for some sort of point guard type player because we still don't have necessarily any long-term answers at point guard. Are we still going to call about a player like Kemba? I could definitely see that with TJ Warren being one of the centerpieces that we include in a potential package there.
The other option that I'm really excited about is the Devin Booker at point guard lineups that we could potentially run out at this point, because there could be a potential starting lineup of Devin Booker at point guard, Josh Jackson at shooting guard, Mikal Bridges at small forward, fill in the blank at power forward. Who knows who's going to start at power forward for this team? And then
that's potentially a way that you could keep TJ Warren. I mean, if TJ just bulks up a tiny bit, he could play small ball 4. It would help if he had more of a shot. But I think Jackson at the 2 and Bridges at the 3, if you're running Devin Booker at the 1, those two on the wings is a fantastic combination. Really, when we're talking about switchability on defense, these two are going to put the clamps down on some of the elite forwards and wings in the NBA. And it's going to be really exciting to watch this team start to embrace a bit more of a defensive-minded philosophy between these two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really nice to have an amazing defender potentially in that lineup that does not affect your spacing in a negative way. That's just a rare thing in a player. One of the most valuable players in the NBA currently are players that are wings who are plus defenders and can also shoot the 3. Mikal Bridges, it should be said, most of his 3-point shots were assisted. Over 90%, I believe they said on the draft today. That is a great thing as well, because we do have players that like to have the ball. Devin Booker, of course, needs the ball. We benefit from him having the ball. Josh Jackson has that potential to be a bit of a point forward. And then DeAndre Ayton is not going to be the number 1 pick that doesn't get the ball. He's going to have the ball a lot. So the fact that we have someone who can catch and shoot from the wing and doesn't need the ball all the time to be an effective player, that's a really valuable thing, especially because we've gotten very good at passing out of double teams. Now, Josh Jackson, of course, has to learn how to do that. He got a little better at it at the end of the season. He's not used to getting double teamed, especially at the NBA level, but it will come. Devin Booker got a lot better at it. It took him 3 seasons to get good at passing out of the double team, but we've seen DeAndre Ayton do that in college. And the type of pass that DeAndre Ayton likes to pass out of the double team is a skip pass or a short pass to the corner 3 for shooters. And that could be Devin Booker, and it could be now Mikal Bridges. Hopefully, eventually, it could be Josh Jackson as well. I'm sure you saw the Instagram post of Josh Jackson shooting 3s. It looks like it's coming along a little bit on that. So it'd be really interesting to see this team with all those shooters on the floor.
Yeah, I think the fit is just going to be great, Mike. I think they're really going to gel together. Talking about player comparisons a little bit, you look at a player like Mikal Bridges, and I think you see a lot of Robert Covington for the Sixers, what he's been doing there for the past couple of years, just filling that 3-and-D role. Otto Porter for the Wizards maybe is another name you throw out. And I've seen people throw out the name Kawhi Leonard as well as like an absolute ceiling. I think that sort of hinges on whether you believe that Bridges really isn't done developing, because, again, he's going to be 22 in his rookie season, which is absolutely old. But, I mean, look at where this guy was when he first started playing for Villanova. His freshman year, he shot 30% from 3. He was one of the worst shooters in the conference. He averaged 6 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, didn't start for them. And then to come so far in just a couple years' time, to be a guy who last year averaged 18 and 5, was one of the best defenders in conference and one of the best 3-point shooters in conference, as well as a guy who's always been a consistent free throw shooter too, by the way. He's just, potentially a late bloomer there. Maybe he's one of these guys who comes in, and even if he's a little older than your average rookie, he's going to keep going up and up for a few more years, and he will achieve that Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard type potential. But I think a guy like Covington or Porter is probably a safer bet.
Absolutely. The one thing I will say for the Covington comparison is that I'm not as afraid of Mikal Bridges handling the ball, maybe on a short roll if he sets picks. I haven't seen if he sets a lot of picks, but if he catches the ball in space and has to move towards the basket, he can go down and dunk it, but he also has good decision-making ability to pass out on the move. And Robert Covington, I don't know about Sixers fans, but when I was watching him in the playoffs, every time he caught it and had to move towards the basket, I was always a little afraid of a turnover. I wouldn't be as afraid of that with Mikal Bridges right away, but it remains to be seen, because college is, of course, different than the NBA, and NBA defenders are a lot quicker to the ball than college players are used to. So it'll be interesting to see him coming in. It's great, though. We got to see him win. We've seen him win. He's a winner. So it's nice to have a winner on the team right away, and we can see what happens. Now, one thing I'm wondering, though, is if TJ Warren is traded, of course, we can still roll with TJ Warren, as we talked about. Maybe he comes off the bench. Maybe he starts at power forward. But say we do trade TJ Warren, do you think it'd be more beneficial to trade him before the season starts instead of starting the season with him, his minutes going down, and maybe his stats going down as a result of his minutes going down, and then his value kind of plummeting because the NBA at large would know that we don't need TJ Warren, his stats are going down, and then they have us over a barrel. Do you think that trade would happen before the season starts?
I think it would. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it could happen at any time. I think it'd be nice if we could get a little indication from Kokoshkov before the season starts, like sometime in the off season between now and September, I guess, about how he's planning on using all of these players. But I mean, I doubt we're really going to get that. He's just going to roll into training camp, see what he has, and try to fit them all together. So if we were adamant on trading TJ Warren, then it would have to come probably sometime in the next couple of months. But I really do like TJ Warren as a player, and he's been a good player who does. I'm not one of those people who just thinks he's an empty stats kind of guy. I'll put it like that. He has undeniable strengths for this team, but I think it's just about him being able to accept a bench role going forward, because now with Jackson and Bridges, I don't particularly see a way in which TJ Warren is still on the Suns in, like 2021, 2022, when we're hopefully playing pretty good winning basketball. Without just being a guy who gracefully accepts a bench role and is willing to be a spark plug off the bench.
Right. Now, what's interesting is how close the Suns actually were to selecting Dante DiVincenzo with that 16th pick. It should be said that the Godfather himself, Gambo, actually reported on what happened. He said, crazy final minutes. Suns were selecting DiVincenzo, but got a trade call from Philly and instead made the trade with Philly for Mikal Bridges. He said literally 30 seconds before announcing Dante, they got the call from Philly. I don't know. I imagine there was some sort of conversations ahead of time about that, because I can't imagine they would just call and ask for the Miami pick. Although I've never been in a war room before, maybe they would just call and ask for the Miami pick. But it is kind of interesting how close we were to getting DiVincenzo and how much better this draft is with Mikal Bridges instead of DiVincenzo. I would have been happy with DiVincenzo, but Mikal Bridges, this is a much, much, much better pick. It's a better version of DiVincenzo.
Well, and that's why I said I was confused again when the initial thing happened, because I was preparing myself for DiVincenzo because I heard the rumors. And I said last week I wouldn't have minded DiVincenzo. He's a bouncy scorer with good offensive potential. Would have been great to come in as a role player off our bench immediately, but I preferred Zaire Smith. So originally when I heard the Suns were taking Smith at 16, I was like, oh, great, this is better than DiVincenzo, because I sort of lowered my expectations, and Smith is the type of player we need. He's a versatile defender, yada, yada, yada.
PJ
Tucker-esque. And then we got Bridges, and I was like, oh, that's, even better than Zaire Smith, and certainly better than DiVincenzo. But yeah, when it comes to Gambo, I think, just as an aside, Suns fans might be a little mad at Gambo tonight because it seemed for a second like maybe we were trading up for Michael Porter Jr. Yeah,
fake news
on that one. But yeah, all jokes aside, I mean, is it a crazy opinion for me to say that I'm much more stoked about Mikal Bridges joining this team than Michael Porter Jr.? Even if Porter Jr. had, fell to us at 16 and we could have snatched him up, that would have been great. I still would have been going on and on about how great this draft was, but Bridges just fits this team so well. He fits it like a glove, really, in a way that Porter Jr., even if you cast his injury risks aside, I don't know that a guy like him who needs the ball in his hands really would have been the same type of fit.
Well, here's what I will say. If we traded the Miami pick for Michael Porter Jr., that would have been a disaster trade to me. It's not that Michael Porter Jr. doesn't have the potential talent to make that worthwhile. It's just drafting Michael Porter Jr. is such a huge risk. It wouldn't have been worth it. To me, the main difference in the two is Mikal Bridges is essentially a guarantee. He will be an effective NBA player. He may never be a star, but he is the perfect type of role player in the NBA in the way it currently is played, which is a lot of threes, and you need switchable defenders. He's the perfect type of player for that. The fact that Michael Porter Jr. did fall all the way to 14 is a bad sign. That means that his back is really bad. It's not good. Enough teams saw those medicals or supposedly saw those medicals and said no. And if we had traded the Miami pick for that, although if he had fallen to 16, like you said, I would have probably said it's a good draft as well because it's worth the risk at that point. But this type of Mikal Bridges move, it's not something that I could have expected, and it's way, way better in my mind than getting MPJ. One thing I will say as well is when Michael Porter Jr. was drafted at 14 by Denver, there were audible gasps and groans in the arena. Of course, we knew nothing about the Mikal Bridges trade at this time, so we didn't even know that was a possibility. And then, two, we thought there was a potential of him falling to 16. I know that once we got to past Chicago and New York, I thought, oh, is Michael Porter Jr. going to be available at 16?
Yeah, and he's a great high risk, high reward prospect. And I would definitely crown the Nuggets as one of the winners of the draft for taking the initiative and drafting him.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad with what we did with Bridges. Not a knock on Porter Jr. at all. Still like the pick for the Nuggets, but our first two picks, again, McDonough hit a home run. And he hit a home run with a Kobo too. So let's move on to what we did at 31.
This pick was not traded. I thought for sure that there would be some sort of trade package with 16 and 31. We ended up picking 3 rookies after all and moved that Miami pick instead. So we ended up with Elie Kobo. He's from France. He's French. He played in a French league. He's 6'3", 180 pounds. He shoots off the dribble, very athletic. Some of the downsides that people have said, I haven't watched a lot of his film, but some of the downsides people have talked about is he's not the greatest ball handler, maybe a little loose with his ball handling. They have said that he is active off the ball. I feel like playing with Devin Booker is a good fit. If he's not the greatest ball handler, Devin Booker can handle the main ball handling duty. And if he's active off the ball, he can do that. But he does shoot off the dribble. That is an important skill. And one thing I love, he's a lefty guard. I love lefty guards. I was a huge Dragic fan, so I'm a big fan of that. What do you think of Elie Kobo?
Yeah, Kobo, he wasn't my first choice. I will say that off the bat because DeAnthony Melton was still available there. And with all the craze that's been going on recently about Suns fans wanting to trade for Patrick Beverley and sort of change the defensive culture of this team, I really thought Melton, even with his concerns about having virtually no jump shot right now, would have been a really good choice to pair in the backcourt with Booker.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, no concerns at all about a Kobo. I was concerned about taking him at 16, but at 31, I think he's a fantastic pick. You did,
yeah. Most of the drafts had him in the 20s.
Yeah.
It's great that he kind of fell to us.
He really. Him and Melton both fell farther than I thought they would. But you talked about his sort of playmaking as a bit of a weakness. He finished with a 1.8 assist to turnover ratio, which is not very good. It's sort of in that Brandon Knight territory. And as a prospect,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of similar to Aaron Holiday, who we talked about at length last week, who I really did not want the Suns to take with the 16th pick. But as a 31st pick, that type of prospect, I think, makes a lot more sense. Kobo is 6'3", like you said, but he's got a 6'8" wingspan, so that amount of length is definitely going to make him a capable defender, at least with the tools to do it. Not necessarily the decision-making or IQ yet, but he has the measurables. And he's just a great shooter. I mean, that's one of the biggest strengths of his game. He shot 48% from the field, 40% from three, and 82% from the free throw line. And I don't think I wouldn't hesitate to say that sometimes his shooting can be Trae Young-esque. Not in the sense that I really expect him to come out and, be pulling up from 30 feet in the NBA. I think his coaches are going to get really mad at him if he does that. But if you look at his film, he does have the potential to be a really talented scorer off the dribble, potentially from three-point range as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to be a guy who can come in and space the floor pretty much immediately.
One thing he's got is that step daddy, step back James Harden move. The sort of rock step left, rock step right, step back, travel kind of. Some people call it a travel. And then shoot off the dribble move. That's a very valuable move. Who knows if he can do it at any high level, but the fact that it's already part of his arsenal, that's a good sign. He has the ability to, do that kind of move. We'll see how effective he is. It's the 31st pick, so we can't expect high things. I did see Evan Sidery, one of the Suns reporters, did say he thought we drafted 3 potential starters. I don't know that I agree with that about Elie Kobo just yet, but we also don't have a great point guard on our roster yet. So it's not crazy to say that by the end of the season, he could be competing for that role. Of course, I don't know if you've seen Brandon Knight's Instagram lately. He seems to be working out every single day. I'm actually pretty excited to see what Brandon Knight brings to the table next year.
Yeah, so here's the question for you now. We have a Kobo. We thought maybe we were going to trade that pick, but we didn't. And so we now have 4 point guards on the roster between Knight, Akobo, Ulis, and Shaq Harrison. Obviously, if they drafted Kobo, they're bringing him onto the roster, and it does sound like a Kobo, although before people were talking about maybe he's a draft and stash candidate. He does want to come over and play next season, so it looks like he's probably going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Suns are going into the season with 4 point guards, so are they giving the axe to Ulis or Harrison, or potentially even both, and then bringing in a different third type of guy in through free agency or a trade?
Right. That I've thought a lot about, and it's a difficult conversation because, as we know, Devin Booker and Tyler Ulis are very close. But in my mind, it should be Tyler Ulis. Tyler Ulis has an unguaranteed contract. What I'm interested in is the guaranteed date for Tyler Ulis's contract, because if it's after the Devin Booker extension, then maybe we know the answer to that question. Maybe they get Devin Booker on a 5-year deal and then cut Tyler Ulis at that point. But I can't imagine that would make him very happy. I really liked Shaq Harrison at the end of the season. I feel like he brought that kind of intensity, the kind of dog that we lost in PJ Tucker, the fight that we need. Of course, now maybe we can get from Mikal Bridges and, of course, Josh Jackson, maybe a little bit from DeAndre Ayton as well, depending on what you believe about him. But Shaq Harrison, he lifted the spirits of the team. He was out there diving for balls. He did the kind of things that a lot of players don't like to do, and that's infectious. So I wouldn't really like to lose a player like that, but I have a feeling it's going to be Shaq Harrison. I think you've got to hang on to Tyler Ulis to keep your star player happy.
I'm going to be very upset with McDonough if that ends up happening, because I really liked Shaq Harrison at the end of last season, even though we weren't winning games. Just what you were talking about, Mike, his ability to dive for balls. He played great defense, was averaging, I think, over 2 steals per 36 minutes. Also had the hops and the wingspan to get up there for blocks. He, gives a little bit of what I was just talking about with, I wanted a guy like DeAnthony Melton at the guard spot, and Harrison provides a little bit of that already in what we have on the roster. So Ulis had a good 2-year trial run with the Suns. And he has some definite skills. If he had a 3-point shot, this would be a much easier decision. But I just don't see how you can succeed, because on offense, Ulis needs to have the ball in his hands in order to be effective. But you can be even more effective by just bypassing him completely and giving the ball to Devin Booker instead. And on defense, we talk about switch-heavy defenses in the NBA these days. Teams are going to switch on Tyler Ulis every time, and they've got the mismatch, and there's just nothing he can do about it. Or a guy like Shaq Harrison can attempt to neutralize that. So I think it's an easy decision, and I think the arrival of a Kobo in Phoenix should mean the departure of Ulis. But I guess we'll just have to stay tuned.
Yeah, Ulis is kind of a fan favorite by some fans. I know that he hasn't been the most effective, but it always is kind of fun to watch the smallest guy on the floor play really hard. So it is kind of fun to watch him. But the Godfather Gambo actually did report that we did draft Elie Okobo with a plan of bringing him over next year. He actually still is under contract in the league that he is in, but the Suns do plan on buying him out with the intention of bringing him on the team next year. So that decision will have to be made very soon. So I guess we'll have to find out in the next month or two here.
And again, we had just quickly one more pick that still hasn't been picked, by the way, but on our next episode, we'll be sure to talk about whoever the Suns took with the 59th pick, or if they traded it, whatever updates there are regarding that.
Yeah, a few more things I want to talk about right off the bat. Just a straight up question. Is this the greatest draft in Phoenix Suns history? What do you think?
We certainly could look back on it and call it that. Jokingly, there was someone, and I apologize because I don't remember who it was, but jokingly I saw a comment in the Suns Reddit of someone who said we drafted the next David Robinson, Kawhi Leonard, and Tony Parker all in one night, which first of all is funny because we were talking about Spurs supremacy last week, but also it's just, it's a bit ridiculous. But also, if you look at the highest ceiling projection for each of the prospects we took, theoretically there's like a minuscule chance that I guess that could happen. You never know. But no, I'd be wary of calling it the best Suns draft of all time, just because I have flashbacks to 2 years ago when we took Chris, Bender, and Ulis, and everyone was saying that we were the team that won the draft that night. And then 2 years later, we're talking about how disappointed we are in both Bender and Chris, and how Tyler Ulis should be leaving the team. So, I'm wary of saying that this was the best draft ever, but as of right now, today, with the players that we took, I couldn't really be happier.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's difficult to judge, of course, this close to the draft, but this is one of the best, I would say, so far. Just the moves that were made, the guarantee at number one. It's a nice time to be a Suns fan, especially after the last 8 seasons. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we start to go here is, did you see Joel Embiid's tweet?
Yes, and I can't wait to see Ayton dunk his ass back to Cameroon in the first.
So,
okay, you explain the context.
Yes, for those who did not see it, Joel Embiid said, "Don't compare me to Ayton. I play defense." And that was it. Unprompted, of course. Ayton was too busy doing interviews to tweet or anything. But I love the fact that Joel Embiid is so threatened by Ayton already that he feels the need to trash talk him. Technically, he's a college player, never played a minute in the NBA, and Joel Embiid is already trash talking.
He's just a troll. Ayton. I don't even know if it's that he's threatened, but he's just a troll. You've got the added element now of it too, because Zaire Smith is going to be a Sixer and Mikal Bridges is going to be a Sun. So when these two teams play each other, I think we're really potentially going to have a good rivalry going. The Sixers are probably still going to beat us because they're a good team right now. But I'm excited to see those matchups play out next year for sure.
Well, we're going to have to circle the date. I'm actually looking for it right now of the first time that we play Philadelphia. And if Joel Embiid is actually healthy for that game, it is on December 4th. Oh, no, that was last season. Whoops. Well, if Joel Embiid is healthy, the first time the Suns play the 76ers, that's going to be a very, very fun game to watch for 2 reasons. One, Mikal Bridges was drafted by Philadelphia. His mom works for the team. He was actually in the middle of doing an interview about how happy he is to stay in Philadelphia when the trade was made. So Mikal Bridges knows that the 76ers picked him and then changed their mind, especially with the reporting by Gamba. We know it wasn't a decision made ahead of time. We know it was a last-minute decision. They changed their mind. And then, of course, we have the trash talking directly between Ayton. Well, it's going only one direction between Embiid and Ayton, but it'll be interesting to see how Ayton responds to that. Already, I was looking forward to seeing those two guys battle, but with this added trash talk element, it's kind of on another level of hype for me.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This, if anything, we can't say this is the best Suns draft of all time yet, but this is going to be the draft that most affects the fan base in terms of like heightening the level of hype for next season. I mean, I think the Suns fan base is really going to be revitalized a little bit. We talked last week about it being a little dormant. We're going to get some national TV games. I think a little bit more love from the national media going forward. So these are all good things to look forward to if you're a Suns fan. And again, I'm definitely looking forward to some of these battles. Before we go, let's just talk about some of these other teams and what they were doing in the draft tonight. I think. Do you want to start with your opinion on the trade involving Trae Young and Luka Doncic?
I cannot believe that Trae Young went 5th. I don't think there's any way he would have gone 5th without that trade. I think maybe at the back end of the top 10. Now, of course, in the last podcast, I did talk about how much I like Trae Young. I actually really like Trae Young a lot. But Luka Doncic is a potential game-changing player. He has the potential to be a James Harden in the NBA. He has the measurable skills similar to James Harden. He's got the passing ability similar to James Harden, and he has the shooting stroke to be a great shooter. Now, he's not a great shooter yet. That's the biggest thing he's got to improve on. But Trae Young is tiny. He's undersized. He will get beat up on defense. He's got great vision. He has the potential to be an amazing shooter, but he's going to be a minus on defense 100%. And the idea that they would trade their number 3 pick, the best asset they've had in a long time, for 2 potentially worse picks, a protected pick that should have been an unprotected pick. I'm sure they asked for it and the trade wouldn't have been made without it. That's probably why it was a last minute pick. I just can't believe it. I'm completely shocked.
All right. Well, to take the other side of things then, I really like what Atlanta did. And I admit that they're gambling here because Luka Doncic has the potential to be a generational player. But you know what? So does Trae Young. You say that he's a negative on defense. I agree with you. But he also has the potential to really just change the entire way that their offense operates. And really, I think people are overblowing things with that protected pick that they got. If anything, I like that they got a pick from Dallas next year. Dallas is gambling. They're going to go all in with a core of really their young core based on Luka Doncic next year and Dennis Smith Jr. I mean, they don't have much else towards their young core. So next year,
It's
it's not great. And next year, they're not going to be that good of a team. Maybe their pick even falls into that protected range and Atlanta has to wait another year. But I think it's likely that next year, Atlanta, in addition to being pretty bad themselves and getting a good pick, they're also going to get a pick from Dallas that's in the 6 to 10 range, or at least certainly a lottery pick, because there's no way that Doncic is going to be such a high impact player his rookie year that he leads Dallas to the playoffs. So really, I think it's a decent move by Atlanta. And if we want to talk about them more generally, I really like what they did in the first and the early second round, going all in on embracing the modern NBA and just taking players that can flat out shoot. They sort of picked the like ugly version of the Splash Bros with Trae Young and then Kevin Huerter, who Kevin Huerter's a 42% 3-point shooter, who they took him 19th, I believe. So that's your point guard and your shooting guard right there. And then you look a little bit later, they took Amari Spellman 30th, a floor spacing power forward, and Jalen Brunson 33rd, another like backup point guard to Trae Young right there, who's a floor spacing point guard. I mean, Huerter shot 42% from 3-point range in college. Spellman 43%.
I like
Brunson 41%, and Trae Young is Trae Young. So this team, their defense might be terrible for the next few years, but they are going all out in approaching this floor spacing mentality, and I think it's really ambitious and something that they should get applauded for, actually.
Well, what I will say is, at least, even though they gave up one of the best assets they've had in years, they probably will be back there next year. I can't imagine they're going to win a lot of games.
No way. No way. I mean, I really like the core they've assembled in such a short time, all those guys that I just mentioned, but they're going to be a terrible team next year. And I wonder what's going to happen to Dennis Schroeder as well. I mean, this, taking both Trae Young and Jalen Brunson, there's no way that Schroeder's going to still be in Atlanta next season.
Well, a lot of how successful this trade is does sort of depend on, one, if that pick conveys, and two, how valuable the draft that it conveys in is, because we're eventually going to, right now it's essentially a Luka Doncic for Trae Young swap, and then we don't know what the other player will be. So it really can't be judged for at least a year, maybe a couple of years. But I with how good Luka Doncic could be, I would not have done that. It felt a lot like a trade made by an owner to me and not a general manager. Trae Young looks like a great player, and he could be a great player. That's just the type of players that that owners usually want to get. Now, one thing I will say too, since we're on the conversation of Luka, the Suns play the Mavericks in Summer League. We're going to get to see Mikal Bridges guarding Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and the Suns-Mavs rivalry, if you go back to the mid-2000s, was so fun. Just so fun to watch, and it'd be nice to see that revitalized a little bit as well if we just have Ayton and Doncic going at each other for the next several years. So that's definitely something to look forward to in Summer League, and I'm sure it's going to get a lot of hype behind it as well.
Yeah, that Suns-Mavs rivalry, I don't know that it's quite the same because Devin Booker kills them. He absolutely destroys them.
And here, but
Wesley Johnson's supposed to be a good defender, right?
Sorry?
Not Wesley Johnson.
Wesley
Matthews is supposed to be a good defender, and Devin Booker kills him.
Yeah, Wesley Matthews has lost a couple of steps since his Blazers days. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, he did tear his Achilles, I believe. So that takes some time to get over.
That'll definitely do it. I'm rooting for the Mavs. Despite them being a rivalry, it was always like a situation where in the mid-2000s, like, you go, how can you hate Dirk Nowitzki? Like you had games against the Spurs and you just fucking hated the Spurs because they had Bowen and Ori, and Ginobili was flopping, and then Pop would be there on the sidelines or be an asshole to the reporters during the timeouts, and then after the game they'd be like, Bowen kicked like 3 guys in the nuts, right? And he'd be like, well, I don't know, he's just playing the right way, and the media would jerk him off. Sorry to go on a tangent there about how much I hate the Spurs again. My point being, the Mavs were always a team that you like respected even when they beat us, and hopefully that rivalry can come back again because those were some fun times.
Absolutely. Now, any other teams that you want to talk about before we go here?
Just a couple. There's no other major moves. I think Atlanta really caught a lot of the attention there with that move, but Boston getting Robert Williams to fall all the way to 27. Supposedly there's some health risks associated with him, and there's also the potential that he's just an immature guy. But I think Boston is the perfect system for a player like that because
it's really unfair.
Yeah, the Clint Capella comparisons may be a little cliche. It may fit too perfectly because both of them were taken 27th. But really, that is sort of the type of player that we're talking about with Robert Williams. So if you get that behind Al Horford. That's a really dangerous combination. I already gave some praise to Denver for drafting Michael Porter Jr. at 14th. And then another tandem I liked, Memphis took Jaren Jackson Jr. and Javon Carter in the early first and second round. I think that really continues with what their philosophy has been for a long time, which is grit and grind, defense first. And so, I respect them sticking with their guns there. I like that combo of players going forward.
But you know who really won the draft? It's the Suns.
It's us. No, I mean, in terms of real winners. Yeah, I didn't even think I had to say it. I was just talking about teams
nice
that we hadn't talked about yet. But no, we won the draft. I mean, let's revel in it a little bit, Suns fans. I really think we did. Maybe we're going to look like idiots a couple years from now, but I really think Mikal Bridges is a pretty surefire prospect to get in the top 10. DeAndre Ayton as well. And Elliot Kobo has star potential if he lives up to his absolute ceiling. So this is a great night to be a Suns fan. Just enjoy it, pamper yourself a little bit, and get ready for Summer League.
Yep, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about these players a lot over the next few weeks before the season starts, and then hopefully the next 10 years. But that'll be it for this episode. Free agency, July 1st. That's the next thing that happens down the NBA pike here. We'll be talking about free agency very soon. Look for that episode early next week.
Make sure to give us a follow at Twitter at The Timeline Pod.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Thomas Hearns. Legends, whose four-way rivalry defined one of the greatest eras in boxing history. Relive their decade of dominance in the new Showtime sports documentary, The Kings, a 4-part series premiering Sunday, June 6th, only on Showtime.